so much of what's happening today in the AI industry is extremely inhumane.
But this is me playing devil's advocate. And logically, it could be the case that the civilization that accelerate their research with AI is going to be the superior civilization.
No, it's not. This is a prediction that you're making, right?
Elon's making, Zuckerberg's making, Altman's making.
And do you know what the common feature of all of them is? They profit enormously off of this myth. I have all these internal documents showing that they're purposely trying to create that feeling within the public so that they can extract and exploit and extract and exploit.
So what do we do about it?
We need to break up the empires of AI. I've been covering the tech industry for over 8 years. I interviewed over 250 people, including former or current OpenAI employees and executives. And I can tell you that there are many parallels between the empires of AI and the empires of old, right? Like, lay claim to the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators in the pursuit of training these models. Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor, which breaks the career ladder because someone gets laid off and then they work to train the models on the very job that they were just laid off in, which will then perpetuate more layoffs if that model then develops that skill. And when they talk about that there's going to be some new jobs created that we can't even imagine, a lot of the jobs that are created are way worse than the jobs that were there. And then there's the environmental and public health crisis that these companies have created, and how they're able to also spend hundreds of millions to try and kill every possible piece of legislation that gets in their way and will censor researchers that are inconvenient to the empire's agenda. But what I'm saying is not that these technologies don't have utility. It's that the production of these technologies right now is exacting a lot of harm on people. But we have research that shows that the very same capabilities could be developed in a different way that doesn't have all of these unintended consequences. So let's talk about all of that.
朋友们，今天大瓜猛料来了，这一次真的是有好话题可以好好聊一聊了。3月26号，美国华裔科技记者 Karen Hao 呢，受邀上了 YouTube 非常知名的英国主持人 Stephen Bartlett 所主持的 Podcast 节目 The Diary of a CEO， 分享他的新书 Empire of AI AI 帝国。Karen 在这个书里过去针对了将近300位在矽谷科技业界的顶级 AI 公司的这些巨头大佬的采访当中呢， Karen 得出了震惊掉全世界下巴的几个结论。当然，主持人 Steven 也挑战对他进行了许多提问，究竟是不是另外一场如 Karen 所说的 AI 帝国的殖民主义蔓延，最后收割的真的是我们这些小老百姓的未来以及我们的权益吗？我发现YouTube 好像没有人好好的谈这一个精彩专访。这个专访时至我录影的当下呢，短短的13天已经创下了322万人次的观看。那由于是一个长达2小时的专访，而且里面的内容有一大半都是在谈这个 OpenAI 这家科技巨擘公司里面高层的这一些斗争的内幕，以及对 OpenAI 的这个执行长 Altman 呢个人的一些评价跟看法。那这个我们就略过。那如果想要知道这些完整内容、完整2小时的专访呢，可以去会员影片。当然啦，如果你愿意支持小弟我1个月75块的咖啡钱呢，那么你就可以看到完整的翻译影片。不过只是订阅我的朋友也不用担心，除去掉 OpenAI 公司的内幕故事之外呢，我还是会好好的来深入浅出的解说，到底 Karen 作为一个独立的科技新闻报道记者而言，他向我们揭露出了一个怎么样他认为才是现在 AI 时代来临的真相。借由他的分享呢，可能会回答许多你我本来就想问的问题哦。就一起开始吧 ，Let's go！好，在一开始的时候，Karen 他先讲述了他自己的一个背景，他是 MIT 麻省理工的机械工程学士哦。那他在刚毕业的时候呢，他就投身到一家矽谷的公司，而这家矽谷公司原本一开始目的是为了一个公众利益，想要去创造可以解决这个气候变迁，就是气候暖化的技术。所以呢 ，Karen 就说他满怀着这一个可以利用创新的科技来解决人类问题的宏大的使命感呢，他就毅然决然投身在这家公司。结果这家公司居然最后董事会把这个 CEO 给开除，原因就是因为公司所发展的这个科技最后没有让公司盈利。那这个我想其实也蛮正常的因为但凡一家公司没有盈利，其实说到底它就不可能成为一个商业化的公司嘛，那你就非盈利机构嘛。可是 Karen 按照他自己的描述呢，他说那个时候他反而有一个很严重的危机感，因为他觉得他花了4年在这家公司里面奋斗，他才意识到说原来 许多的这些矽谷科技公司在草创初期的时候，都是标榜着说我们为了要改善人类的一个什么问题才创立开办的这家公司，然后我们来发展科技。可是到最后他发现，矽谷公司说到底全部都是以盈利为导向，他就越来越怀疑说，到底自己待在这个科技圈的奋斗，自己是否真的有实现自己心中的这样子的一个使命感。所以因此 Karen 呢就转网作为一个专门报道科技伦理新闻有关的记者。从2018年到2022年呢，他就担任了 MIT Technology Review 杂志的人工智慧专栏的编辑，深入追踪 AI 技术对社会的影响。所以不得不说这就有让我们先看到了一个非常合理，并非单纯只是为了要卖一个畅销书的动机而写这本书的初衷了。Karen 接下来他就说他自己有更多的时间去致力于了解到底是谁来决定这些技术的发展，那这些技术的发展它背后所驱动的资金跟它的意识形态是怎么样来促使这些所谓看似要解决人类问题的。换句话说 Karen 其实这个时候我们可以讲他其实就有点像个侦探他想要搞清楚的就是到底这些所谓看似宏大的因为解决人类问题的这些技术呢，到底是不是真的是有一个使命，还是说也许这些背后不过就是一场资源垄断跟资源掠夺的游戏呢？他接下来就开始针对这样的一个项目前后采访了250人，总计高达300次的采访，而这里面呢有超过90位都是这个 ChatGPT 的，可以说真正开始把 AI 带进我们生活大众视野里头的这家公司 OpenAI 它的前任或现任的员工以及高管。结果 Karen 得出了第一个惊人的事实是什么？就是他说，如果你在矽谷 City Valley 呢，你会听到的是这些公司的口号都是怎么样的要来解决人类的某某问题啦、某某痛点啦、创造人类的福祉啊。可他说，当你一旦走出了矽谷，你到其他地方的时候，你就会发现这些科技公司他们的说法就不同了。
When Sam Altman is talking with Congress, AGI is a system that's going to cure cancer, solve climate change, cure poverty.When he's talking with consumers that he's trying to sell his products to, it's the most amazing digital assistant that you're ever going to have. When he was talking with Microsoft, in the deal that OpenAI and Microsoft struck, where Microsoft invested in the company, it was defined as a system that will generate $100 billion of revenue. And on OpenAI's own website, they define it as highly autonomous systems that outperform humans in most economically valuable work. This is not a coherent vision of one technology. These are very different definitions that are spoken out loud to the audience that needs to be mobilized to ward off regulation or get more consumer buy-in into the industry's quest, or to get more capital, more resources for continuing on this journey with ambiguous definitions.
Karen 就提出就是 AI 到底是什么，以及 AI 可以做什么。他发现科技公司基本上对于不同的受众群体，他说出来的定义跟答案就会不同。Karen 说，最早在 OpenAI 创办之前的时候，2015年呢，创办人 Altman 呢，他就为了要吸引 Elon Musk 的投资，那我们知道 Elon Musk 很早也是在差不多10年前的时候呢 ，Musk 就认为人类未来生存面对到的一个威胁就是 AI， 甚至 Musk 因此还称人类如果一旦开发 AI 呢，那就简直是召唤恶魔一样。这个是在 Musk 的博客推文上面。然后呢，他们就仿效 Musk 他这样的言论，把 AI 称之为人类不可避免灾难性毁灭的可能选项之一，借此好去吸引 Musk 跟他一起创办 OpenAI。所以 OpenAI 最早的创始2大股东是 Elon Musk 跟 Altman。但是呢，后来 Altman 抓住了整个公司的核心董事会的支持之后呢，就把 Elon Musk 给踢出去了，导致了 Elon Musk 到至今呢仍然耿耿于怀，认为 Altman 是欺骗了他，假意去附和他的言论，好吸引他入股投资。那这个事情呢，我们纯粹就是当个吃瓜群众听听就好。不过 Karen 提到这个真正可怕就在于在哪里呢？那就是他说，其实 OpenAI 在经营里头呢，对于 AI 的发展本身是否真的能够朝向一个对人类有价值、有益处，还是说可能 AI 最终会使得人类不可避免这种灾难，连 OpenAI 这家公司自己内部呢都产生极大的矛盾与人事斗争，而且每个人呢对于 AI 的看法呢都不一样。也就是 Karen 认为 OpenAI 这样子大的一个 AI 的公司在发展过程当中，你根本无法直接单纯的从创办人他的意图是善还是恶来决定，只能说他们自己内部有严重的人事斗争，而 AI 的研发方向上面 像是一个看不见的风筝，大家都被风筝拉着走，而没有人能够真正说这个方向到底该往哪里去。
Quite a lot of these people leave, don't they? OpenAI.
They do. So if you consider one of the origin stories of OpenAI is this dinner that happened at the Rosewood Hotel, which is a very swanky hotel right in the heart of Silicon Valley, that was one of Elon Musk's favorites whenever he was coming up from LA to the Bay Area. And there was this dinner that was there where Altman was intending to recruit the OG team that would start OpenAI. So he's kind of telling everyone, you might have a chance to meet Musk because Musk is going to come to this dinner, and he cold emails Ilya and gets Ilya to then come and Ilya specifically wants to come because he wants to meet Musk. And he also emails all these other people, including Greg Brockman, Dario Amodei.
These are all people that ended up working at OpenAI.
And they all, almost all of them, not every one of them, but almost all of them end up working at OpenAI.
And leaving.
Almost all of them end up leaving, specifically after they clash with Altman.
And Ilya, he left and launched a company called Safe Superintelligence.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's an indirect if I've ever heard one. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? If someone like co-founded this podcast with me and then they left and started a podcast called Safe Podcasting, I'd take that as a slight. I'd have people knocking on their door and asking for their texts.
One of the things that is happening here is it is not a coincidence that every single tech billionaire has their own AI company.
Mm-hmm.
They want to create AI in their own image. And that's why they keep not getting along. And in fact, it's not just don't get along. They end up hating each other after working together, and then splinter off into their own organizations. So after Musk leaves, he starts XAI. After Dario leaves, he starts Anthropic. After Ilya leaves, he starts Safe Superintelligence. After Mira leaves, she starts Thinking Machines Lab. They want to have control over their own vision of this technology. And the best way that they have derived from their experiences of trying to put their vision into the arena is by creating a competitor and then competing with OpenAI and with all the other companies out there.
好，那主持人呢就提到说，曾经任 OpenAI 研究副总裁的 Dario 呢，就认为我们的人类的未来有很大的几率10%到25%会因为 AI 呢而带来毁灭性的影响。
Do you think some of these AI CEOs realize that they are quite literally summoning the demon, as Elon said 10 years ago, but they don't really care because being the person that summoned the demon makes you consequential and powerful and historical, even if the outcome is potentially horrific, even if there's like a 20% outcome of it being horrific. I remember, I think it was Dario, he's the one that said there's somewhere between a 10% and 25% chance of things going catastrophically wrong on the scale of human civilization. 25% is a 1 in 4 chance. If you put bullets in a 4-chamber revolver and said, Stephen, the upside is you could become a multi-gazillionaire and be remembered forever. The downside is that there would be a bullet in your head. There is no chance that I would take that bet with a 25% potential chance of things going catastrophically wrong.
那 Dario 的逻辑是这样哈，就是说 Dario 认为呢，虽然我们跟动物的关系也很友善，好比说我们都爱这个狗狗、猫猫啊这些，可是他们的智慧因为比我们低下，所以人类在面对到好比说重大工程，举例来讲，我们要盖桥啦，要铺路啦，我们会自动的去对待动物的方式，就是牺牲了他们所在的栖息地、环境这些等等。这不论我们人类是否有天性去热爱动物，可是在智慧的高低面前呢，人类终究会选择对自己较为有利。那么 Dario 就认为说，如果说按照 AI 未来的发展，假如有一天 AI 的智能会超越人类的话，那么 AI 对待人类的方式就非常有可能就是我们对待现在所处的地球环境当中其他动物的方式。这听起来是不是有点道理呢？不过呢 Karen 是认 为说，像 Dario 这种 AI 危机论呢，这个只是一种 AI 的假设。目前到底这种说法是否属实呢？仍然在科学界存在着大量的争议。但是 Karen 认为，这就变成一个很关键的问题，在于说，到底现在的 AI 是朝什么样的目标在发展的？假设如果按照 OpenAI 的想法呢，就是说，通常人的大脑越大呢，通常跟它的智力也会成正比，因为它处理信息运算的速度会更多。那么现在的 AI 其实就朝向往这种所谓超级大脑，也就是盖超大型的数据中心为出发。盖越大型的这种数据中心，那是不是运算的速度就会越快？运算速度越快呢，就是一个 AI 在突破智能的方向。也就是说，这种粗略的把人的大脑，所谓人的智慧，仅仅是比照所谓的运算信息处理资讯量的一个速度来取决的话，那么整个 AI 目前的方向就是往运算速度越来越快嘛。好，这个我们都能理解。也因为如此 Aaron 认为，如果说 AI 公司他们的目标只是为了要能够比照人类大脑，想要超过人可以运算的速度、运算能力化，那为什么我们要去发展一个可以取代我们自己大脑运作，或者说超越我们的呢？他认为这个方向就变得很奇怪了，因为这个方向很明显，它根本上就是变成要跟人的大脑去做竞争，甚至进而取代掉。那为什么我们的 AI 科技是朝向要取代人类作为一个进步的方向，而不是回到应该解决人类自身生存需求的问题以及麻烦一个更方便更好的方向呢？也就是说，这个技术的使命的意义到底是什么？最终得来结果不就会反噬到我们自身，取代掉我们人类本身就已经在做的事情吗？
And some of the biggest critics say it's very reductive to think of our brains as simply just statistical engines.
Why does it matter to know the mechanism? Is it not just important to know the outcome, which is that it's going to be able to make a video for me, or agents are going to be able to do the work that I do? Does it really, really matter for us to know the mechanism behind it?
Yes and no. So it matters because these companies, they are driving their future actions based on this hypothesis. So they have decided, we think that this hypothesis is true, like we should just continue building larger and larger statistical models in the pursuit of artificial general intelligence. And that's then having global consequences. Like, in order to continue doing that, they're hoovering up more and more data. They're building more and more data centers. They are having, they're, exploiting more and more labor in order to continue on this path. Here's a question that I think is important to ask is, why are we trying to build AI systems that are duplicative of humans? We're kind of having this conversation right now where we've just taken the premise of this industry as a good thing. Like, they said that we should be building AGI, so we say that we should be building AGI. But I would like to ask, why are we doing that? Why is it that we are building a technology that is ultimately designed to replace and automate people away? That is not the enterprise of technology. We should be building technology, and the purpose of technology throughout history has been to improve human flourishing, not to replace people. And so this is a critical part of my critique of these companies and these scientists that have just adopted this goal and have relentlessly pursued it and have had enormous capital and enormous resources to pursue it. Is this the right goal? Why are we doing this? Why can't we just build AI systems that do things like accelerate drug discovery and improve people's healthcare outcomes, which are systems that have nothing to do with the statistical engines that they're trying to build to duplicate the human brain?
So why are they doing it? I mean, you've interviewed all these people. I think it's, 300 people in total? 80 or 90 of them from OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. Why do you think they're doing it?
好，接下来就是真正的关键，也就是 Karen 认为，为什么过去 AI 的推动一直是以跟人类的大脑做比较？我们一般人都总会认为说，这很正常嘛。既然讲 AI 人工智能，那当然是跟人类大脑去做比较嘛。但是 Karen 从刚刚我们听到的脉络呢，告诉我们一件事情，就是这些所谓的科技公司，他们并不关心的是如何解决人类生存所面临到的难题。相反的 ，AI 不断的进步的过程，是一个已经在取代人类大脑运算的过程。那么因此呢，社会大众并不明白这个更美好是哪里。当然这也是我们大部分人一直担心的问题，就是 AI 是否真的会取代我们。那么现在 Karen 要提出的核心就是 AI 取代我们的一个根本目的上面是 这些大公司他们可以利用 AI 来进行所谓帝国主义或者殖民的一种侵略。殖民谁呢？那就是所有人类的智慧财产权。就来看看 Karen 接下来要把它的核心概念是怎么样的清楚的说出来。
I think it's because they're driven by an imperial agenda, and that is why I call these companies empires of AI.
What do you mean by an imperial agenda? What does that term mean?
Empire is the only metaphor that I've ever found to fully encapsulate all of the dimensions of what these companies do and the scale that they operate and what motivates them to do what they do. And there are many parallels that you see between what I call the empires of AI and the empires of old. They lay claim to resources that are not their own in the pursuit of training these models. That's the data of individuals, the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators. They're land grabbing in order to build these supercomputer facilities for training the next generation models. Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor. They contract hundreds of thousands of workers all around the world, including in the US, to ultimately make these technologies. We can talk about that more. And they also design their tools to be labor automating so that when the technologies are deployed, it also affects labor rights because it erodes away labor rights. And this is a political choice that they have. Third, they monopolize knowledge production, so they project this idea that they're the only ones that really understand how the technology works. And so if the public doesn't like it, it's because they don't actually know enough about this technology. They do this to the public, they do this to policymakers, and they've also captured the majority of the scientists that are working on understanding the limitations and capabilities of AI.
You think they're gaslighting the public, in a way?
They are, yeah. So if most of the climate scientists in the world were bankrolled by fossil fuel companies, do you think we would get an accurate picture of the climate crisis?
No.
And in the same way, they employ and bankroll, the AI industry employs and bankrolls most of the AI researchers in the world. So they set the agenda on AI research in soft ways, simply by funneling money to their priorities so that only certain types of AI research are produced. But they also will censor researchers when they do not like what the researcher has found. And so I talk about the case of Dr. Timnit Gebru in my book, who was the ethical AI team co-lead at Google when she was literally hired to critique the types of AI systems that Google was building. She then co-wrote a critical research paper that was showing how large language models specifically were leading to certain types of harmful outcomes. And in an attempt to try and stop this research from being published, Google ended up firing Gebru and then fired her other co-lead, Margaret Mitchell. And so they control and quash the research that is inconvenient to the empire's agenda.
So going back to this point of empires, you were saying that one of the factors of an empire is a land grab. And then the next one was
labor exploitation.
Labor exploitation.
The third one, controlling knowledge production. And one of the other ones that's really important to understand about the AI empires in particular is empires always have this narrative that they say to the public, like, we're the good empire. And we need to be an empire in the first place because there are also bad empires in the world. And if you allow us to take all the resources and use all of the labor, then we promise we will bring you progress and modernity for everyone. We will bring you to this utopic state akin to an AI heaven. But if the evil empire does it first, we will descend into a hell.
And the evil empire being, in this case?
In this case, most often it's China. But actually in the early days, OpenAI evoked Google as the evil empire. So all of their decisions were about, we need to do it first, because otherwise Google, this evil corporation that's driven by profit, us as a benevolent nonprofit, like this is a critical contest of who wins.
Do you think the people building these AI companies believe that the outcome is going to be all good now? Do you think they think that it's going to serve everyone, it's going to be the age of abundance, everything's going to go well? What do you think they believe? What do you think Sam believes?
So this is so funny, is such a core part of the mythology that they create around the AI industry includes the belief that it could go very badly. It goes hand in hand. Like they need that part of the myth in order to then say, and that's why we need to be in control of the technology, because that's the only way that it's going to go really, really well. And Altman has said publicly, the worst case, lights out for everyone. But best case, we cure cancer, we solve climate change, and there's abundance. And Dario Amodei, same kind of rhetoric. It's like, worst case, catastrophic or existential harm for humanity. Best case, mass human flourishing. So this is like two sides of the same coin. Like they have to use both of these narratives in order to continue justifying an extremely anti-democratic approach to AI development, where there should not be broad participation in developing this technology. They must be the ones controlling it at every step of the way.
Karen 谈的东西有一个更深的层次，就是说 Karen 认为其实 AI 这个行业里头现在充斥在媒体上面一直在辩论所谓的 AI 对人类到底未来是走向更繁荣或者是所谓的毁灭人类。他认为这些说法这些宣扬其实都是行业的话术，目的是为了让大众更产生这种焦虑或者是产生迫切的期待，在这反复之间去进而的相信说谈这些话语这些 AI 科技大佬呢，是我们能够把 AI 的未来托付给他们的。好比说当 Elon Musk 他在讲说他认为 AI 将来会带给人类毁灭性的灾难，我们可能会召唤出所谓这个恶魔的时候呢，看起来我们可能还会以为说好像这样子的说法是反 AI 的。其实他在表达出一种态度，就是说我是因为能够察觉到能够谨慎去预防这种未来的 AI 风险的人，大众对他就会有一种更深来自于恐惧的信任感，认为说你都已经说出了这种预告了，那么你应该就是更合乎属于有道德的。其实我自己也观察到Elon Musk 自己本身其实也很矛盾，以前他的公开的只要是在海外，特别是像海湾国家沙烏地阿拉伯这些去寻求投资的时候，他说未来 AI 可以让人类都不用工作，以后钱对人类来讲变得没有意义，对吧？那可是呢 Elon Musk 又说 AI 会取代掉所有一切跟资讯类相关的工作，而且甚至将来我们对于 AI 的智能是不可控的。那你就会觉得很矛盾，就是你一下讲的是很美好，但你一下又在警告。那这些东西都只不过是看他面对的群体是谁而来决定。若是面对投资人， AI 公司就会把它讲得非常美好，那面对大众，他就会给大众一种情绪的感染，说那么你应该是那个可以保护我们的人。这大家理解我意思吗？所以 Karen 的意思就是说，不论哪一种，这些都不过是 AI 公司所创造出来绑架大众，相信他们这些特定少数人。可是 Karen 要提出一个更深层次的问题，就是这个技术的走向不应该是全体人类来共同决定吗？如果 AI 是把持在少数人手里，变成就是所谓的帝国主义，换句话说就是 AI 独裁。透过这个技术，我可以来决定大部分人的命运，而大部分人的命运是不可以通过民主的方式来表决来执行的。
There's a mythology that the AI industry uses where summoning the demon is an integral part of convincing everyone that therefore they can be the only ones that are developing this technology.
I got it. So on one end, you've got to say, if we don't, China will. And that's terrible.
Yeah.
But if we let anyone else do it other than me, then we're fucked as well.
Exactly.
So that means that I have to do it and you have to give me money and support.
Exactly. So when they're saying these things, we should understand it as not as like a genuine prediction based on what they're seeing, because first of all, we don't predict the future, we make it. We should understand this as an act of speech to persuade other people into believing that they should cede more power, more resources to these individuals. And so do they know that they're summoning the demon? I mean, they're purposely trying to create this feeling within the public that they are, because it is a crucial part of their power. But if we were to define do they realize that the things that they are doing are having already really harmful impacts all around the world on vulnerable people, vulnerable communities, vulnerable countries? That's where I'm like, maybe yes, maybe no, and they don't really care. On one hand, there are all these executives that actively engage in myth-making because, I have all these internal documents that I write about in the book where they are very keenly aware of how to bring the public along with them by showing them dazzling demonstrations of the technology, by crafting a mission that will sound really good, and make people give more leniency to their companies. So they know they're doing the myth making. And also, I think many of them lose themselves in the myth because they have to live and breathe and embody it day in and day out. And so when, Dario says he thinks that 10 to 25% of the future could be catastrophic, or whatever, the probability is 10 to 25%, he is actively engaging in the myth making, but also he's losing himself in the myth. Like, I think if you were to ask him, do you genuinely believe that? He would be like, yes, I genuinely believe that. Because there's been a blurring of when he's saying something just to say something versus when he actually believes what he's required to believe in order to then continue doing the things that he's doing.
And this is the whole psychology of cognitive dissonance, right? Where the brain struggles to hold two conflicting worldviews at the same time. So it's incentivized, or it endeavors to dismiss one. So if you wanted to be a healthy person but also a smoker, and I pointed out that smoking's bad for you, the first words out of your mouth are going to be yes, but smoking
exactly
helps me with stress.
Yeah.
Or, yes, but I only do it when. And I think, I don't know, I kind of see that at the moment because these companies have to raise extortionate, like huge amounts of money to fund their AI research, and they're building out all of these data centers. So when they're out in the public, they're always fundraising. All of these major companies are fundraising all the time at the moment. So you can't be fundraising and saying, I'm going to destroy your children's future, potentially. There's a 25% chance that your children aren't going to have a great life, which might be the truth.
I mean, that is actually what they say. This is what famously Dario Amodei does. He
does that, but the others, Sam's not doing that as much anymore.
Yes, and it's because, it goes back to like each of them kind of distinguish themselves a little bit as the brand that they need to project.
Karen 又重申公开媒体上面谈所谓 AI 危机论的，或是 AI 繁荣论的呢，他觉得这种科技大佬们之间的论调不同呢，都只是为了去包装成自己个人独有的品牌形象。那这个时候主持人不禁就有点质疑了不可能所有的人都这么坏吧都是唯利是图，会不会这当中有些人他就是属于偏向道德感、社会责任比较强的，而他提出的东西可能是他相对比较相信的。主持人好奇，难道不同的人去带领的 AI 科技公司，不就应该会有不同的一个方向的结果吗？
Do you think any of them are have a stronger moral compass than others? Because I think Dario often gets the credit for having more of a backbone and being more conscious of implications.
He does get a lot of credit for that.
He's from Claude and Anthropic, for anyone that doesn't know.
I don't think it truly matters, the answer to that question, because to me, even if you were to swap all of the CEOs for someone that people would say is better at running these companies, it doesn't fix the problem that I identify in the book, which is that there is a system of power that has been constructed where these companies and the people running these companies get to make decisions that affect billions of people's lives around the world. And those billions of people do not get any say in how it goes.
Those people, they can go to the polls, right? So if the public are sufficiently educated, they can go to the polls and pick a leader that says they're going to legislate or pass laws or try and pass laws.
Yes. But at the speed and pace at which these companies operate, and at the sheer scale and size, they're able to also spend extraordinary amounts of money, hundreds of millions in this upcoming midterms, to try and kill every possible piece of legislation that gets in their way and craft legislation that would codify their advantage. And so, to me, I think sometimes as a society, we obsess a little bit with, are these leaders good or bad people? Mm-hmm. And to me, the bigger question is the governance structure that we've created a sound one, or that allows broad participation, or an anti-democratic one that has consolidated this decision-making power in the hands of the few? Because no person is perfect. I don't care who is at the top of these companies. They're not going to have the ability to make decisions on behalf of so many people around the world who live and talk and have a culture and history that are fundamentally different from them without things going wrong. And so that is why throughout history, we've moved from empires to democracy. It's because empire as a structure is inherently unsound. It does not actually maximize the chances of most people in the world being able to live dignified lives. AI is already being used in the military and has been used in the military for a long time, but specifically accelerating large language models isn't just the only path for getting military capability. Like the companies would have to choose to specifically pick military capabilities to accelerate, not just like general intelligence. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they create this myth that they are actually pushing the frontier of all of the capabilities of the model, but that's not what's actually happening internally. And I had hundreds of pages of documents on like how they were specifically training models. They pick what capabilities they want to advance. And you know how they pick them? It's based on which industries would be able to pay them the most money for their services. So they pick finance, law, medicine, healthcare, commerce. It's not actually intelligent like a baby, where the more that the baby grows up, they start having this like these general abilities.
好，那接下来主持人就问一个问题，就是如果你说这样子的 AI 帝国是它的发展是掠夺的，可是呢，在美国这些 AI 科技大佬们都说我们要寻求更多的支持，甚至整个美国政府都应该来支持我们，因为我们如果不在 AI 技术上面领先的话，那么我们就会输给中国大陆，将来呢，对于西方社会来讲反而会有危害。那这个论点呢，主持人就问说，难道不是一个很合理要去支持 AI 发展的理由吗？那 Karen 就说完全不是。那 Karen 提出的角度是这样，他认为第一个 AI 并不是万能的，并不是所谓如这些人所讲的，就是我们只要发展 AI 了，我们就可以在军事力量上面得到这个领先的效应。因为 Karen 认为 AI 真正在发展的目前的方向上来讲，它只是让更大的数据中心运算的更快。美国军方很早就已经使用 AI 了，可是为什么 AI 并没有在军事上面有重大的突破？他认为就是这些公司在选择上面并没有特定的往好比说军事用途上面的 AI 去做更多的发展以及更多的研究。 AI 公司它是可以选择性的，所以他们会自动的去只选择对他们有利的部分，而那些利润较低的，好比说可能是要花更多的资金，但是可能回报有限的军事上面用途上面的话， AI 公司并没有花更多的资源跟金钱在这种军事的开发上面，这只是一种包装的神话，也就是让你以为这些公司好像他们是在所谓这种共产政权跟西方资本主义的对抗当中最前沿的战士，可是这只是为了包装他们自己，好让整个西方社会都跟随支持他们。但他认为这其实是一个虚假的神话。不过呢，从刚刚一直这样听上来，我自己觉得就是商业的本质本来就是这么一回事。第一个，商业你无法要求民主化，那是因为民主国家它是由人民来监督政府。在目前的公司体制来讲，能够监督公司高层营运的顶多只有真正核心的股东或说董事会，你不可能要求所有的员工都来监督，更不要说承担风险跟资金投入的是股东，员工基本上只是雇员，他没有一个权利可以说我来投票来决定更换老板，所以因此决策会掌握在少数人手里，这本来就是合理的。所以对于所谓的商业帝国这个论调，我想我们也不陌生，但是只是说刚好今天因为是在 AI 这样的一个时代巨变的科技之下，所以我觉得 Karen 把这种帝国观念跟要去影响到全人类的科技而绑在一起，认为商业帝国本身是一种可怕的危险的话，我认为无可厚非。但是本质上说到底，商业的进步本来就是这么一回事。想当初在工业革命的时代，掌握蒸汽机的这些工厂，不也是另外一种掌握了人类未来命运主宰的力量吗？但是我们可以看到，蒸汽机取代掉的也是人类的劳动力啊，某种程度上反而是双手解放。虽然会剥夺了大量的手工传统制造这样子的生产线，但是相对的提高产出。那当今天 AI 取掉是我们许多过去用人工计算的方式，不再需要仰赖大量的人力去做计算的时候，其实它在释放的也是我们智力上面不需要的消耗。所以我自己觉得 Karen 有一点太过把所谓商业的本质跟道德的制高点绑在一起，看得太重了。好，当然我也承认一件事情，就是企业社会责任它不能够忽视道德，可是确实就以追逐利益的企业体来说，其实发展的过程本来就不是以是否合乎真的要以解决人类的某个目标为使命。在这过程当中，只要哪怕是出现连年的赤字亏损的话， 基本上这种企业它一定会终止，不然的话你就转做非营利组织就好了，用募款的方式来寻求支持。好，但是回过来讲呢 Karen 说科技大佬都是在用神话般的方式来美化包装他们自己从事这个领域的形象。我觉得这确实有很大一部分是因为他们知道他们在发展的过程当中对人类生活的影响，而需要去降低大众对于他们的一个心理上面的排斥或是抵触情绪，而创造出我认为很简单讲就是所谓的商业话术、商业包装。那至于说这些所谓大数据中心剥削了大量的劳工，造成当地的生态环境污染，我认为举凡世界上各种领域的大企业其实都有这个现象，好，都是往更低的人力成本、更廉价的土地做使用。再来最后一个问题就是说 AI 的发展难道真的没有顺便改善我们的生活吗？那接下来主持人就提出了几个论点，我觉得蛮好的，也是一种非常委婉的在挑战 Karen。 一个就是现在发展的无人驾驶的自动车，很明显的可以降低交通事故人为出事的几率，它不是一个更好的应用吗？
I think sometimes we hold AI models to a higher standard than we hold humans to. And in a weird way, because I'd hear on stage, we're in Austin at the moment, and I'd hear people go, but, you know, them AI models, they hallucinate sometimes. I'm like, have you met a human? Like, I hallucinate all the time. I can barely spell or do math. So.
Yes, but it's once again like using this analogy that was specifically picked in the early days of the field as a way to market these technologies. Like we're repeatedly using the intelligence analogy and relating these machines to human intelligence as a way to try and gauge whether or not it is good or worthy or capable in society.
I think the output is the thing that really is the most consequential, which is like, okay, it might have a different brain and a different system, but does it arrive at the same capability? Like, is it able to do surgery on someone's brain? Is it able to drive a car? Like my car drives itself in Los Angeles. I don't touch the steering wheel and I can drive for many, many hours. And here in Austin, I just saw the ones the other day where they've removed the steering wheel and the pedals, the new cybercabs. So I go, it doesn't really matter if it's using a different system. If it's navigating through the world as a car, it has a better safety record than human beings. Then as far as I'm concerned, intelligence or not, it's like,
yes,
you know.
But that was not the original argument that you made, which was like, these systems are just generally going to become more intelligent across different things based on the prediction. This is a prediction that you're making, right? Like that. And this is a prediction that all of the AI...
Ilya's making, Dario's making, Elon's making, Zuckerberg's making, Altman's making, Demis is making.
And do you know what the common feature of all of them is? They profit enormously off of this myth. Okay, so this once again goes back to this question of like, why do we build technology and why should we specifically be building AI? Okay, and for me, like the whole project of technology development and advancement is not to advance technology for technology's sake. It's to help people. And there's been lots of research that has shown that actually the best outcomes for people in a healthcare setting is for the radiologist to have the AI model in their hands and for the human expert to use the AI model as a tool, as an input into their judgment. And it is that combination that leads to the most accurate and early diagnoses of certain types of cancer that then help improve the prognoses of the patient.
Do you believe that in the coming years, pretty much all the cars on the road will be driving themselves?
No.
You don't think so? Mm-mm. How come?
Because of the way the technology works.
Well,
because these are just statistical. I mean, currently the way that AI models are primarily developed, they're statistical engines. You have what's called a neural network, which is a piece of software that has a bunch of densely connected nodes. And
like parameters. Is this what they call parameters?
Yeah, pretty much. And you're just pumping a bunch of data into it, and then it's analyzing the data and creating finding all these correlations in the data, finding all these patterns. And then it's through those patterns that the machine is then able to act autonomously, right? And so the way that they're training a self-driving car is they're recording all this footage, and then they have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of human contractors that draw literally around every single vehicle in the footage, every single pedestrian, every single traffic light, every single lane marking, and label it exactly as such, so that then it's fed into an AI model that can identify all of these different components. And then it's connected to another piece of software that is not AI that's saying, okay, if the AI model recognizes a pedestrian, we do not run over the pedestrian. If the AI model recognizes a red traffic light, we stop. And so the thing about statistical engines is that it's based on probabilities. It's not based on deterministic logic. So systems make errors all the time. And it's impossible. It is technically impossible to get them to stop making errors.
Humans make errors way more than systems in this case.
Yeah.
Like the safety record is like, isn't it like 10 times more safe to be driven in a Tesla with autonomous driving than it is for a human to drive?
It depends
per
on
mile?
the place. It depends on whether the Tesla was trained to specifically navigate the place that you're driving.
Humans get drunk.
Because if it's in Mumbai, in someplace in Vietnam, no, it would not be safer. I would much rather be driven by someone that has been driving in that place their whole life. I'm not arguing against like the fact that in certain places where the car has been explicitly trained to drive in this place, that it has a better safety record than the humans that are driving in that place. But you specifically asked if I think that all of the... Most cars in the world, in the US...
Let's say the United States, because we're here.
I don't actually think that it's like imminently on the horizon.
10 years?
No, I don't think so.
I sat with Dara from Uber, and he's pretty convinced that his 9 million couriers will be replaced by autonomous vehicles.
I mean, how long has self-driving cars been invested in such far? It's been more than 10 years. And what percentage of cars right now are autonomous on the US roads? I mean, so part of it is, it's actually not a technical problem, right? Like, part of it is also a social problem. Like, do people even trust getting into these vehicles? Part of it's also a legal problem, which is if the self-driving car kills someone, which it has happened.
Yeah, it has happened.
Who is responsible?
So in the case in LA, it was both Tesla and the driver, because the driver dropped their phone, they looked down, and this was a couple of years ago, I believe, and they went to grab their phone and they hit someone. And so it went to court, and they were held both responsible, both the driver and Tesla. In terms of Tesla, pretty much everyone that gets the car, it comes with autonomy now for pretty much most people, I believe.
Partial autonomy.
Yeah, it's called full self-driving at the moment, where it's like...
I mean, yes, it is called full self-driving.
Full self-driving supervised, where you kind of have to be looking in the right direction, but...
Yeah, so it's partial autonomy.
and here in Austin, it's full autonomy, because there's no steering wheel.
Yeah.
On the new car. So you can't drive it anyway. But it is, the Model Y is the undisputed highest selling car, best selling car in the world across all brands. Well, I guess my point here is like these predictions where they say AI is going to completely change transportation and driving. It's going to completely change. Lawyers aren't going to have jobs. Accountants aren't going to have jobs. Do you believe that they are true? Do you believe that there's going to be mass job displacement?
Okay, so I do think that there is going to be huge impacts on employment, and we are already seeing those impacts. It is not simply because the AI models are just automating those jobs away. It is specifically because the models are improving in certain capabilities based on what the companies that are developing them choose to improve them on. And executives at other companies are then deciding to fire or lay off their workers because they think that AI can replace the worker, irrespective of whether that might be true. And there have been cases of like the Klarna CEO who laid off a bunch of people thinking they would replace everyone with AI, and then it didn't actually work, and he had to ask some people to come back.
I actually DM'd him about this. If you're hearing this, this is because I've DM'd Sebastian and he's fine with me sharing this. He said, because I've heard his name mentioned a lot. Yep. And so when we talked about AI in the past and people mentioned Sebastian and Klarna as the example, I wanted to clarify with him what the truth was. He said, it's great to hear from you. I think sometimes people struggle with two things can be true at the same time. I think it might be time to come back on your podcast. To your point, this is the media misinterpreting my tweet. We are doubling down on AI more than ever. Klarna is shrinking with almost 100 employees per month due to AI. We used to be 7,400 at the peak. A year ago, 5,500. Now we're 3,300. And by the end of summer, so this was last year, we'll be 3,000 people. AI handles 70% of our customer service conversations at this moment. This is because we have realized that with AI, the production cost of software comes down to almost zero. Just like manufacturing used to be all handcrafted, and then the machines came, Code used to be all handcrafted up until a few years ago, and now it is machine produced. And ultimately, we pay people more than ever for the unique handcrafted man-made stuff. Klarna is a bank. People will want to connect to humans, not only machines. They want us to be personable, relatable, even flawed. So we need to make sure while we are automating, replacing with AI in parallel, we make sure we offer a super available human experience.
I'm really glad you read this because I think it touches on some really important nuances to the AI, like the impact that AI is going to have on employment. So I think there's often these binary narratives. It's like AI is going to come for every job, or people say AI is not actually working and it's not actually coming for jobs. And like the reality is that it's coming for jobs. There are definitely jobs that are being automated away because of the capabilities of their models. And there's also jobs that are being lost because executives are deciding to lay off the workers, even if the models don't match the capabilities because it's good enough. Like they would rather have the good enough model for way cheaper.
Or they made a mistake with hiring. They bloated their team and it's a great convenient thing to say.
Exactly. Like there's many reasons, but like clearly we're already seeing impacts on the job market. Like the US jobs report that came out earlier this year showed that there has been a decline in hiring, is a slowdown in hiring across especially white-collar professional industries. And so what we're seeing right now is, the thing that happens with every wave of automation, which is that there is a bunch of entry-level work that gets automated away. And there are also new jobs created, but the jobs that are created are in one of two categories. There are people that get even higher skilled jobs. And what he was saying, like we pay people more for like the handcrafted code now. And there's also the people who get way worse jobs. And so there was this amazing article in New York Magazine that was talking about how a lot of people are getting laid off and then they end up working in data annotation, which is the labor that I've been referring to throughout this conversation that companies need in order to teach their models the next thing that the companies are trying to automate. And so like a marketer gets laid off and then they go and work for a data annotation firm to train the models on the very job that they were just laid off in, which will then perpetuate more layoffs if that model then develops that skill. And the article was talking about how this has become a huge catch-all for a lot of people that are struggling with finding job opportunities right now, including like award-winning directors in Hollywood that are actually secretly doing this data annotation work to put food on the table. And so when they talk about there's going to be mass unemployment and then there's going to be some new jobs created that we can't even imagine, I think a lot of these narratives rarely talk about, like, first of all, why are some jobs going away? It's not just because of the model capabilities, it's also because of executive choices and because of the rhetoric that they use if they want to just downsize. But the other thing that is rarely talked about is the jobs, a lot of the jobs that are created are way worse than the jobs that were there. Yeah. And it breaks the career ladder. So it's the entry level and the mid-tier jobs that get gouged out. It's higher order jobs and then way more lower order jobs that get created. And so how do people continue to progress in their careers? There's no more rungs on the ladder.
I actually don't know the answer to this question. And I've been furiously trying to find a good answer to this question because I can, everything is theory. And for my audience, I would say most of my audience don't run businesses. A lot of them do, a lot of them aspire to, but they don't run businesses. So they're also in the land of theory. They're hearing lots of different things. Jack Dorsey does his tweet saying he's halving his headcount because of AI. They don't know what's true. They don't know the sort of internal economics at Jack's company. And did he bloat the company during the pandemic? And he's just using this as an excuse to make this share price spike 7 points because his investors now think they're an AI company or whatever. It's hard to pass through. So eventually I go, okay, what am I doing? I have hundreds of team members, probably 70 companies I invest in, maybe 5 or 6 that I'm like the lead shareholder in. Yeah. What am I actually doing on a day-to-day basis right now? Well, I also consider myself to be head of recruitment. But in the last month in particular, I have met extremely capable candidates in terms of cultural alignment, hard work, those kinds of things. But I've had to take a great deal of pause because when I run the experiment of can I get an AI agent to do that exact same thing, the answer is increasingly yes, especially in a world of open clause.
And so I'm curious, like, now you confront this decision where you're seeing in this short-term period, you could just choose the AI agent. And in the long-term period, there is no career ladder. So who are you promoting into these senior roles? Like, how do you resolve it for your own company?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's kind of two ways I'm thinking about it. I think really deep expertise is very, very valuable because if you're now the orchestrator of potentially AI agents, it's really about having a deep understanding of the right question to ask. And that's someone who has deep expertise on something. So I need my CFO because if she's going to be orchestrating our team of agents that might be doing financial analysis or whatever else, she needs to understand what to tell them to do in our company. And in turn, financial analysts can't do that. They need the 50 odd years of experience that, Claire has. On the other end, I need Kaz. Kaz is 25. Kaz knows everything about AI agents. He's a young Japanese kid who's highly, highly curious. On the weekend, he's building AI agents to solve problems in my life. I need those two kinds of thinking, which is highly proficient agent maxing young kids, or they don't necessarily need to be young, but like really lean in high curiosity. That's creating a force multiplier in my business. And then I need deep expertise. Now, everything else outside of, there is another one I've thought of, another group, is like people with extremely great IRL people skills. Because we do meet people in real life. We greet you when you arrive here. When we go for lunch with big clients that we have, whether it's Apple or LinkedIn or whoever it might be, we need to schmooze. And we have teams who, are in person in the office. So we do a lot of stuff IRL. And increasingly we're building communities, even for this show. We're doing community events all around the world. So we need people that are good at that as well. IRL, bringing people together in real life and organizing stuff. Those are the three groups of people that I'm like, irreplaceable right now.
And if you were to all of the roles that could be done by AI agents, if we were to replace them with AI agents, do you think you would still have these three pools of people to hire and promote into the three critical things that you need in the long term?
If things carry on at the current rate of trajectory, one could assert that even those roles would experience pressure. If you just imagine, like people think of things either statically or linearly or exponentially. If you imagine an exponential rate of improvement, which is kind of what I've seen, even like a 10% compounding rate of improvement, at some point, I think what remains is actually the IRL irreplaceably human stuff, human to human. Our Maslowian needs of being in person like we are now aren't going to change. We need connection. Humans get very sick when they don't have other human beings in their life and strong, deep relationships.
100% agree.
So that stuff is going to matter a whole lot. I have this contrarian weird take that actually maybe this is the first technology that's going to deliver on the promise of making us human and connected, because we're going to be rendered useless at everything else other than what humans are good at. Because all the other technologies said, we're going to make you more connected, connecting the world. And they disconnected the world and isolated the world. But maybe this is the one. It's so intelligent now that it doesn't need us to fuck around in spreadsheets anymore.
Do you see that actually happening in real time right now, that it's making us more able to be in person, connected with one another, having deeper social community engagements?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll give you some data points.
Okay.
Data point number one. The Financial Times released a report on social media usage. And what they saw is 2022 was the peak and it's plateaued ever since. The generation that's plateaued the fastest and heading down is the younger generations.
Yes.
The boomers are still off to the races, right? Also on Facebook and stuff. And then you look at the way Gen Alpha are using social media, they're not posting as much. They call it posting zero. They're scrolling sometimes, but they're in dark social environments like WhatsApp and Snapchat and iMessage. They're not like performing to the world. They also value IRL experiences much more than any other generation. They're like not getting smashed. We're seeing every brand has a run club. We're seeing, run clubs exploding around the world. And we're seeing this real sort of almost like innate realization that like technology let us down at some fundamental level. Like dating apps let us down, social networking kind of has let us down. And we're seeing, I think, maybe a bifurcation of society where a lot of people are going, fuck this, like, I want to go back to what it is to be a human.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that in such a world where intelligence is so sophisticated that we no longer needed to sit at laptops and like, I think screen time is going to continue to fall. I think you go into an office, you're not going to see people sat at laptops. You're going to see something completely different. And I think maybe, and then we talk about robots and Optimus robots. Elon says there'll be 10 billion Optimus robots. Elon has been wrong with timing before. He's almost never been wrong on the big things completely. His timing has got a bad track record. So I think he's probably right. I think I've got some people on the way from Boston Dynamics and these other big companies like Scale AI, and they're actually bringing the robots here to show it, like folding laundry, doing the dishes. I'm not saying that's what I would want in my home, but I think factory work is going to completely change. I think a lot of manual labor is going to completely change, and I think we're going to be forced to do what only we can do.
好，最后这边我放了非常长的时长，让大家可以好好的来看到主持人在后半段呢对 Karen 的说法展现出不同的一种委婉的反驳。其实这也是我想阐述的论点。当所有 Karen 的担忧或者说担心的危机，好比说提到了释放出了更多低层的劳动，其实这个在过去工业革命时代早就已经存在了。就像在工厂的流水线变成一个系统化的时候，人们只是作为一个小小的打螺丝的流水线的生产人员，那你会说这些工作释放出来都是错的吗？这不就反映出来的是因为有许多更复杂的东西已经被系统化实现了吗？当然 Karen 说，如果底层的工作变得更多，人们变成更多的去往底层工作的时候，那么阶级的晋升制度还存在吗？就如主持人讲的，他说不会啊，我还是会需要有人能够来帮我带领或者管理好这些底层的工作人员，没有错啊。任何一种新形态的工作出现的时候，仍然终究需要一个更高层的管理者。到后面我觉得 Karen 已经有点在强辩了，一直在去强调就是 AI 如果又取代了高层的管理者呢，那你会怎么办？主持人就很客观的说，我认为除了我需要有人来管理这些底层的工作人员，但是我也同样需要有人可以帮助我协助社交的，因为未来的人们会更多的时间需要专注于彼此社交连接，而 AI 正是释放了我们不用成天坐在电脑前面去面对冗长的这些枯燥的行政作业。其实两个人的论点仍然到最后会存在出，就是你是怎么去看待一个科技新的突破的产生，你是乐观的看待还是悲观的看待，这就跟看半杯水的道理其实是一样的。我自己是觉得 Karen 到后面他已经凸显出一个狭隘跟恐惧，会不会当他原本满腔热血的进入矽谷，他以为一个科技的重症是可以带来人类生活物质的大幅度改变，而他发现到商业本质仍然是将本逐利的过程，而失去了理想性的时候，他因此就开始一系列专注的都是大企业的发展对人类生活带来的负面冲击，而因此陷入了一种自我暗示的心理循环，不断的去相信说我们在做的事情都终将是走向一个毁灭道路。可主持人 Steven 反而证明了他生活当中里头他所需要的人才跟他自己对于 AI 的应用，其实是带领他可以做更多关注更重要的事情，有更多时间扩大的社交连接。他认为如果 AI 可以取代掉我们目前能做的话，那么我们就能专注于做那些只有人类自己能做的事情，好比说面对面的沟通，面对面交流，就像他们 Podcast 的节目一样，这个就是 AI 暂时无法取代的事情。而人们更关注在于自身彼此交流的时候，在人们心灵的部分上面，也许真正打破的反而是那个疏远以及隔离。那么姑且不论 Steven 这样的说法是否太过乐观，但是我认为是有道理的。Karen 很多的论点，其实如果放到过去工业革命时代蒸汽机发明的过程来讲，我认为会是一样的论点。但是人类今天的走向仍然让我们看到了，我们终究会跨越那一个不适应期，而我们也会产生出更多新的工作模式。工业革命解放了双手，人类也开始更多的专注于广告跟营销宣传这类的工作，过去都没有这样子的工作产生。所以究竟 AI 时代人类就真的会失去工作吗？我觉得最后的答案仍然只有在观众自己的心中。不知道观众朋友你是怎么认为呢？都欢迎你在下方留言好好跟我们分享你在这一期深度访谈当中所看到的收获。不过 Karen 仍然为我们阐述了一个很好的警惕，那就是我们不用过度的去太看重这些科技大佬们对于未来的预测，是否他们真的是带一个使命去往一个人类未来的愿景去发展的。我觉得确实我们不用投射过多的期待。AI 的发展过程当中，我觉得它更多的也是摸索跟尝试想要突破人类自己所达不到的这种运算的极限。它的本质并不一定是为了对人类到底这是好事还是坏事作为出发的，纯粹就只是看做不做到而已。但是我也不否认，就是一旦今天做到了，对人的冲击确实是大的。可是相对而言，你换一个心态来看，可能过去很多你需要背诵记诵的东西，你可以利用 AI 在短时之内就查找到， 不需要再去专注在于是你的记忆力有多好，而你可以专注的在于是怎么整合以及分析这些事理的能力了。一体永远是两面的，它有好有坏。比起今天我们分享的这个更值得探讨的一个真正深入的问题，那就是 AI 是否会因为了执行它的任务以及命令，做出所谓欺瞒程序员、欺瞒人类行为。那这个呢，就是我们之前做过的一期非常精彩的影片，强烈推荐大家想看到真的 AI 对于人类已经实质发生欺骗、隐瞒的行为的话，那么你就不能不看。这部